Now, I am ideologically, to some degree, good with pursuing that anyway, because I think it needs to be done. On the work requirements, people love, some people really are enthusiastic about the idea of work requirements, and I think in an ideal world, I think it's reasonable that, if you're getting government benefits that you have because you don't have enough income or you don't have a job, you should be working toward employment as you still receive those benefits. However, I have become worried about just adding more regulation also to the healthcare system, because then somebody has to verify that you're doing this, so that's a government job we need. There's more paperwork, so that's a government job we need. And on some level, checking in on all these things to make sure people are jumping through all the extra hoops you've imposed to make the welfare more fair or distributed in some way you think is more correct or morally just, actually makes the system more expensive because you need people to verify it. And I don't always love that idea.
So I think here what we have is an argument that you're making somewhat in the abstract. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is cutting against the point that AOC raised, which is if a woman has just suffered a miscarriage and has income levels that would normally entitle her to Medicaid, she shouldn't then be compelled to be working in an injured and presumably traumatic state in order to avail of health coverage. And the whole idea that there should be work requirements, I disagree with on a moral basis, because I'm of the view that the provision of healthcare is in fact a human right. And the United States, as you're well aware, is the only developed nation that does not treat it in that way. And so these arguments that there should be a work requirement for treating someone who's just had a miscarriage seems just callous to me, honestly. And in relation to these specific proposals on Medicaid, it isn't just about people having reduced benefits. According to the CBO, it's about 8.6 million people could not have health insurance at all by 2034. That is an urgent threat. And AOC is rightly making the point about how it could impact people. She listed the high percentages of people in some of those Republican members' districts who are dependent upon Medicaid. These are basic, decent human rights that are at danger of being stripped away.
Yes, I mean, we do on some level have just an ideological disagreement here. I mean, it's fine by me if there are exceptions in these requirements for people who have recently suffered an injury, or to get a certain amount of time where you're recovering from an injury or a situation like a miscarriage. If that is an exception to the work requirements, but that I would be happy to support. So no real issue there. I mean, it's, but in terms of it being a moral right, that does just become a philosophical issue. I don't believe you can have a right to something that then someone else would be obligated to provide you. You have a right. It's negative rights versus positive rights, which viewers might know or not know what that means. But I have a right not to be coerced against. I have a right not to be killed or harmed or censored or those kinds of things. Do I have a right, to your, on some level, a right to healthcare would be a right to compel you, if you're a doctor, to serve me? How can that be a right?
It would simply be the right to have access to health care irrespective of your means, as happens in every other developed country in the world. Big differences there, and we'll see if there are more coming up, with a Wisconsin judge who's accused of helping an undocumented immigrant evade ICE agents. She has a strong message for prosecutors. Stick around to hear her argument.